Thanks for listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Hodes. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. We've been exploring bridges these last weeks, intersections, spaces where dark meets light, sleep meets awake, east meets west, the physical meets the spiritual, science meets art. And this week, that bridge takes us across the River Styx. Let's get into it. Okay, before we get into it, I have one bit of love and care. You matter to me. I care about you. And I want to begin with a deep breath, the deepest you've taken all day. Inhale, slow and easy. All right, now exhale. Release all of your worries. Feel them fall away, rolling off your shoulders. One more deep belly breath in. And exhale, saying your name out loud. Ask your guides to cut all ties and tethers attached to you. Cut them, all that are not of love and light and not there with your permission. Ask that those ties and tethers return to source and that all of your energy returns to you, dear one. Thanks for indulging me. I know it might be a strange way to begin an episode, but this is a sticky, tricky time to be alive. Lots of energies are blowing here and there, like confetti in the wind. Make sure each day, even twice a day as you brush your teeth, that you clear off all that sticky, grabby energy that isn't yours. Think of it as wiping off the confetti that wasn't part of your party. And at the same time, ask that your energy returns to you. I kept getting tapped at the top of my spine, the base of my neck with black tethers. It must be the place I'm most vulnerable. After days of cutting those cords, my angels created a metaphorical gold plate that stretches over my shoulders and up my neck. They're like little baby angel wings. That's what I think of them as, to protect me. I still do regular energy cleansing, clearing, and I do ask that my energy returns to me often. You and your angels and guides will create what's perfect for you. I just know it. But why all this fuss? It's essential TLC because you are essential. You can reduce the entire process down to a single word, your name. Say it to yourself as you're starting your car, brushing your teeth, lacing up your tennis shoes, or making coffee. And boom, the work is done. All right, this week, I know it's in the Christian holiday of Easter. It's a spring celebration, a time of renewal. And at its heart, Easter is the story of a resurrection, right? And it's the perfect time, I felt like, to dive into the place of death. It's this continuing education class that I created for someone I love dearly, and her language as a lifelong educator is continuing education, coursework to keep her credentials current. So I echoed those familiar words, that familiar sphere for her, using the same methods, and I even included worksheets. This course, which I'm sharing, is oral. It's a conversation meant to build a bridge from this life to what happens after our last breath. Yeah. And I know it sounds ominous, but really in this time of spring and renewal, when our plants that look dead and frozen underneath feet of snow and frozen dirt are coming back to life, that's how I see whatever this is, this experience, this soul experience. Everything is reduced, reused, and recycled, everything in nature. And there's that whole physics law that energy cannot be destroyed or created. It just changes form. And that's truly how I feel about death. I don't think it's the end of anything. I think it's the beginning of something else. But if you're still not convinced that this is going to be an interesting conversation, let's talk about the fear of death. It can keep us from living a full and complete life. If we can overcome our initial aversion, and I'm not saying become full uncomfortable with our imminent death, but familiar with the process, examine and maybe call out our preconceived notions and ideas, clear away old programming, including religious programming, and then use our imaginations to picture what we want to experience after death. Well, at its worst, it's a thought experiment that makes our final days more peaceful. And at best, we actually impact our death experiences, creating a less jarring transition from life to afterlife. I don't see a downside to recognizing that one day all of us will expire. Overcoming fears of death leads to a full spectrum life experience. Let death control our every thought. It's the equivalent of wearing a dog cone. You know those clumsy plastic halos we put on our beloved pets so they won't gnaw on a hot spot or pull out fresh stitches. It's so relevant to me this week with Cooper having surgery on his eye. But those cones, they're bulky, they're awkward, they impede our vision, our movement, and our path forward or backward. And the sad truth is we put those cones on ourselves to avoid thinking about, worrying, wondering, or planning for what happens after we die. I worked in pediatric hospice as a volunteer fundraiser for nearly a decade. It wore me out. I had to walk away because it was emotionally grueling. So my cap was about 10 years. But for all of you new to the word hospice, hospice means the last 90 days of life, give or take, depending on the jurisdiction and the insurance policy, right? And the pediatric part of pediatric hospice, yeah, it's heartbreaking. I said yes to this work to pay it forward after our child had sepsis, which has a 50% mortality rate, and they lived. I felt compelled to help others to pay it forward. What I learned is that there is medicine in living intentionally, and there is much to learn from end-of-life care. Country songs beg us to live like we're dying, right? Philosophers, including Eckhart Tolle, recognize the power of staying in the present moment. Social media and therapists alike ask us to live out loud, to stretch past our comfort zones, say the things to loved ones now, and make plans to do the trips or visits right now, not to put off living until all the planets are in alignment. All of that is huge. I produced an entire show about conquering the fear of death in season 1, and it's worth a listen. I put the links in the show notes. But today we're on the edge of the River Styx. I'm holding hands with you. We are gonna be okay. We're gonna be better than okay for having dwelled here. Let's talk about our last exhales. What's that saying? In life, the only things we can count on are death and taxes. Daniel Caesar has a song about it. I'm not a CPA, but I'm a podcaster that gets to speak with all sorts of interesting, cool, intuitive guests. Often our conversations turn to death. It's something everyone will experience. Are there ways we can embrace life now while simultaneously embracing a comfortable perspective about death? How about if God, harp music, angels, and their ilk aren't your thing? You've landed on the right tool. This workbook is for anyone that feels that this physical existence is all there is. When we die, it's like a switch flips off. Our light goes out and that's it. No tunnel, no happy reunion with loved ones that died before us. It's just darkness, nothingness. It's also meant for anyone that has spent their life pushing away the subject of death, like keeping it at an arm's length, finding the topic to, quote, Debbie Downer, end quote, or that spending time contemplating death could cause that expiration date to somehow come sooner. What if you're a person that feels comfortable with dying, but someone you love and care about or care for even is actively dying in hospice care or has been given a terminal diagnosis, and you wish them to at least entertain the idea of dying better, controlling what we can control in the process? This workbook is not meant to convince you that the afterlife is real, that our consciousness goes on, sent up to the ethereal cloud to await a new body to incarnate into before it is downloaded into the vessel as though it was a fresh cell phone. Put simply, this workbook is a thought experiment. If we can use purpose, intent, and visualization, can we create a better death? Would that help transmute death anxiety or fear into curiosity? Inject hope into the hopeless? Result in a sense of, if not only partially, being in control slightly of our last thoughts and experiences? At the very least, I hope it helps us to live well, like that corny country song, Live Like We're Dying. Say the things, do the things, imagine the next thing, and chase it. This curriculum is the end product of nearly 2 years of writing my own mother's obituary. In the days, hours after my father, Mike, died, Mom asked me if I'd write her obituary. His illness and death had made clear what to-do list items needed tending for her before she passed. I agreed to write her obituary, and probably mostly because she got to me with flattery, saying I was one of her favorite writers. This flattery gets you everywhere with me, apparently. But in the throes of the grief process myself, I couldn't get into it yet. I couldn't even fathom losing my mother next after losing 2 dads in succession to kidney failure. Oh my gosh, I just needed some time to be in my grief. So I did what I threw the task back on her desk. That's what I did. I asked her to send me her professional history. Her CV could serve as a super loose outline of her life. Not all of it, but a big chunk. As I grieved Mike, I thought about the questions I wish I'd asked him when he was still alive. Did he see any aliens or UFOs or Bigfoot when he lived in the shadows of Mount Adams in Packwood, Washington? But there were other questions and conversations I wished we'd had. I wanted to do the next whatever years with my mother on Earth better. What gaps did I have in my memory of her that I wanted to ask about and fill with her firsthand accounts? It led to us taking a trip to her hometown, Chicago, together. Afterwards, I emailed her to gather more details and ask about other things, other questions about learning to drive, school friends, school lunches, student teaching after her undergraduate degree was complete. All of that and more. With ample stories about her in draft form and a fuller picture of what made her the person beyond the mother that raised me, like actually seeing her as a human being in the full sense. What were her dreams and disappointments? How had she found her passions? And what was she still looking forward to achieving and experiencing before she died? I was ready. I wrote a rough draft of her obituary. Soon after, self-awareness kicked in, and I sent her a text to warn her what she would be finding later that day in her email inbox. It felt like a draft of an obituary wasn't something you just sent out willy-nilly and let a person read on a subject line, right? It felt kind of cruel to do that. I've also watched enough true crime that I didn't want to be the cause of a heart incident or worse. The night after I sent the draft to my mother, I had a dream. In it, she had died. I didn't get to see the dying part of this night movie. We jumped squarely into the afterlife bit. She'd asked me to accompany her to the beyond because she was nervous and a little scared. That's where we were then, my mother's constructed beyond. It resembled the streets of London, which is her favorite city in the world. The streets were narrow, crowded with cars and people and activity, and we were hovering just above the fray. It was near sunset, which I just somehow knew. The sky gave away no secrets. It was filled with these fat, gray-bellied clouds. So there we hovered, my mother and I, maybe 15 or 20 feet above it all. My mom said, "I'm supposed to be in my nicest clothes, but I wanted to wear this." Her face was a defiant smirk. She had on a black pantsuit I remember from her principal days, with a crisp white button-up shirt beneath the blazer. I noticed frayed edges on her lapel and a hole in the knee of her pants. "What happens next?" I asked. "I think they're gonna fly by and see if I pass the test." I didn't know who the "they" was in her explanation. And then she vanished, so I couldn't ask. I assumed she was on to the next level of whatever this afterlife adventure was that she had created. Like a parent, though, on the first day of school, I felt uneasy leaving her there. I returned to street level and found an abandoned car. I slid inside the driver's seat and watched the sky through the windshield to make sure they didn't boot out my mom or something. I was startled when, after a time, a traffic officer knocked on the window. "The street fair is over. Move your car." I turned the key in the ignition and drove straight, and then I woke up. I mean, really? Crowded streets of London? That's what I was thinking when I woke up. Rebelling by wearing an old pantsuit? That's the best my mother had come up with? I was kind of sad for her. And though I told my father Mike during his visitations to me after his death, changing her ways wasn't his job, it wasn't mine either. My mother's invested in the physical experience. She believes nothing happens after we die. We are all just a light switch that flips off. There is no continuation of our soul stories. Hell, souls? I haven't asked her about her belief in souls, but based on that aversion to all things spiritual and religious, they're very triggering for her because she grew up in Chicago in a very strict Catholic family. But I feel not believing in souls is probably a safe assumption. It's ironic, though, because my mother also has told me stories of her own father confronting death. So, and that's my grandfather, Vincent Sneesick. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Though I understand it's not my job, it doesn't feel like a burden at all. I wanted to see if she might be open to adding a visualization of what she might want to happen after her last breath to her to-do list. But I struggled with how to approach her. A phone call was out of the question. Her hearing is pretty good, but if she's in a conversation that's kind of tricky, she doesn't like someone's viewpoint, she pretends she can't hear. That's a curiously cat-like trait for someone who can't stand pets, by the way. She likes to think about deep stuff in private, without eyes on her, without judgment, and I really relate to that. Writing. I decided writing a letter to her was the best course of action. But because she was a lifelong educator, that's where the continuing education class to keep up her certification came in. I would write a death prep certification course. I hope the discussion, the exercises, and your own personal responses help to make death feel less menacing, not a looming grim reaper, but a part of the life cycle that if you aren't ready for right now, it won't paralyze you with fear in the meantime. It's made and offered in love. I want to assure you as you listen, you don't need anything to do the exercises that I mentioned. If you want, you can pause the recording and then write down your responses for yourself in a notebook or on your phone's notes app or on a napkin. However you like, this is your course. So here it is, all the buildup. But here's the course. It's pretty simple. Think of this as a class you're required to take to be certified. It's not something you have to absorb or make manifest in your personality. Just let that go. It's just information presented in print for you to read and then acknowledge to the tester, which is yourself, that you read it. Yes, we're self-grading here. If you like, there's an addendum at the end. If you're curious, it's what Paul Harvey called the rest of the story. If I was to ask you right now what you believe would occur in the moments after you took your last breath, you might describe a light switch that flicks off. The light is dark in an instant. But I have to be cantankerous and say there's wiring that led up to that metaphorical light switch, and that's the stuff of a soul. Keep reading. Remember, this is to receive your certification. I'm not going to dump some BS 70s TV evangelical crap on you, just what I've observed. Just to get us out of our comfort zone, just to stretch out of our comfort zone, right? Inside of each of us is a rough draft of what actually exists after we die. For those that haven't deconstructed their years, say, in the Catholic Church, beyond outright rejecting the dogma without doing the work to see that parts might have brought hope, but that controlling or maybe it felt mind-warping institution ruined even the hope part. Well, those folks might be surprised to see that once their light switches to off, they're faced with purgatory or hell. And they're like, what the heck? I rejected the church, but here it is, because they didn't do the work to clear out that programming. They brought their constructs into the afterlife. As a podcaster, I've been really fortunate to speak to all sorts of people from all walks of life. I've been exposed to a myriad of experiences through them. I've spoken to near-deathers, which are people that experience clinical death and then were revived, shocked to find that those old religious archetypes became the basis of their post-death realities. They were kind of mad about it. If they were fortunate, they had enough time on the other side to see that for the false fronts or constructs that they were. And then they got to see and feel something more universal, loving, benevolent, non-judgmental, that had nothing to do with religious institutions. So let's be honest about our subconscious constructs. You might want to write them down. If this was a worksheet, I'd have left a few blank lines where you could jot them down. Maybe you would see a tunnel of light and you would walk through it until you saw someone that you recognized. Maybe an iteration of heaven came forward for you, pearly gates, gold brick streets. Or if you truly believe that nothing happens, it's darkness, is it like the darkness you see behind your eyelids when you force them shut, like right now? Because we've all experienced the outlines that we see, even though our eyes are shut, blobs of color, depending on if there's sunlight in our vicinity, and more shapes, but just black. I can feel your boredom, so I'll do what my best teachers did in school right now and relay a relevant story. Just remember to suspend your beliefs or opinions. This is a course you have to take, but not absorb. In the weeks leading up to Mike's death, I had dreams where he told me he was scared. He didn't know what would happen after he died, what would happen to him, and that's why he was holding on so tight to life. Listen, we had a complicated relationship, but I agreed to help smooth the journey. I love him. In waking life, I meditated and asked my guides to show me what Mike needed to move on. And I visualized building a cave thanks to them. It was a cave entrance chiseled out of a gigantic 10-foot high geode of purple amethyst. I added stalactites of orange citrine and stalagmites of pyrite. I dotted the walls with opals. That evening, I fell asleep. Mike told me in a dream to explain to him what I'd done, what I'd created. I told him I'd created a karmic car wash, and we both laughed at this because I clearly, part of him and part of me made up that name. When he took his last breath, I told him no matter where he was, he would see the shimmering glitter of it, and he could choose with his own free will to walk into and through it to the beyond. It would cleanse and clear him, and all of any guilt or residual stickiness would just fall away. Fast forward, and Mike passed away. The morning of June 3rd, I did what I do in the early hours. I laced up my running shoes. I found my headphones. I turned on my music app and I stretched for a treadmill jog. 3 songs played in succession, none of which were songs I'd ever listened to before in this app until this moment. Weather With You by Crowded House, Just Breathe by Pearl Jam, and Night Swimming by REM. I've copy and pasted the lyrics to the songs below for your review. And for you, the listener, I know I did this last week, but I'm just going to read them. They're poems, basically. So Weather With You by Crowded House. Walking around the room singing Stormy Weather at 57 Mount Pleasant Street. Well, it's the same room, but everything's different. You can fight the sleep, but not the dream. Things ain't cooking in my kitchen. Strange affliction wash over me. Julius Caesar and the Roman Empire couldn't conquer the blue sky. Well, there's a small boat made of china. It's going nowhere on the mantelpiece. Well, do I lie like a lounge room lizard, which is a Mike catchphrase, or do I sing like a bird released? Everywhere you go, always take the weather with you, and that just repeats to the end. Here's the lyrics to Just Breathe by Pearl Jam. Yes, I understand that every life must end. As we sit alone, I know someday we must go. Oh, I'm a lucky man to count on both hands the ones I love. Some folks just have one. Yeah, others they got none. Stay with me. Let's just breathe. Practiced all my sins, never gonna let me win. Under everything, just another human being. Yeah, I don't want to hurt. There's so much in this world to make me bleed. Stay with me. You're all I see. Did I say that I need you? Did I say that I love you? Did I say that I want you? Oh, if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come clean, I wonder every day as I look upon your face, everything you gave and nothing you would take, everything you gave. Did I say that I need you? Did I say that I want you? Oh, if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come clean, nothing you would take, everything you gave. Hold me till I die. Meet ya on the other side. Oh my gosh. I have the coolest vibration and cold wind blowing on my right side. I know it's Mike. Because my right side is my paternal side, my dad's side. If my left side is sore, that means I have problems with the mom's side. Anyway, what I love about this is the third song that Mike sent me on Night Swimming by REM is he knew it would be so effing funny for me because he loved to go swimming in the lagoon across the road from he and my mom's house. And he loved to do it naked. So it's so perfect. He knew it would make me cry and laugh at the same time. So here it is. Night swimming deserves a quiet night. The photograph on the dashboard taken years ago turned around backwards so the windshield shows. Every streetlight reveals the picture in reverse. Still, it's so much clearer. I forgot my shirt at the water's edge. The moon is low tonight. Night swimming deserves a quiet night. I'm not sure all these people understand. It's not like years ago. The fear of getting caught, of recklessness and water. They cannot see me naked. These things, they go away, replaced by every day. Night swimming, remembering that night. September's coming soon. I'm pining for the moon. And what if there were two, side by side in orbit, around the fairest sun? That bright, tight, forever drum could not describe night swimming. You, I thought I knew you. You, I cannot judge. You, I thought you knew me. This one laughing quietly underneath my breath. Night swimming. The photograph reflects every streetlight, a reminder. Night swimming deserves a quiet night, deserves a quiet night. Okay, so back to the required coursework. At this point, you may choose to text one of your granddaughters. My eldest received their own songs, and that's their own story to tell. I didn't even know it until we were reunited in Colorado months later. They were different songs with different stories to tell and different messages. Again, it's their story to tell. I've met many interesting people in my life. 2 interviewees are psychic intuitives. I have to interrupt myself to add that I never posted anything about Mike's illness or his condition or that he died. I only told people close to me in real life, my dearest friends and family, but I didn't post it anywhere, all right? You have to know this. So June 3rd, I had 2 text messages from 2 psychics I had interviewed. Both had the same message. They were kind of felt confused about why they had to send it, but they did because that's what you do. And they were from someone named Mike who wanted to tell me thanks that I'd made it so easy. I get what you did for me now. Okay, take a stretch, walk a lap. Yawn and pop your ears. You might be restless. Shake out your arms and legs. We're on the last bits. Your experience after you die is your construct. You make the rules. You put yourself in heaven or wherever the heck you want to create. You. If you truly believe it is black nothingness, just play along, play the game. Create some place you love and make that what will happen next. Add every detail, every layer of richness that you can. So if you love to travel, how about it's an airport and you're just coming off a plane ride? You're leaving the gate, and as you enter the main terminal, someone you love is waiting there with a chilled bottle of rosé and a stemmed glass. Or what about a baseball ballpark? You've stepped out of the restroom, or maybe you're in the hot dog line and you're meeting someone at the seats for a great game. Again, if this was a worksheet, I'd have blank lines here to write down 2 or 3 or 10 examples of places you would love to visualize as the next stop in your soul journey and who you'd like to see there. So you can pause here if you want to, dear listener. Other places that come to mind are a vacation destination that you love, like if it's the beach, soft sand beach in Mexico or a hammock in Hawaii. Maybe it's like me and it would be a hiking trail, a brand new, fresh hiking trail with new surprises around every bend. And I've got the best cookies in my backpack to eat when I get to take a break. Flesh it out. Add every detail you can think of. Think of all of your senses, your sight, your hearing, your smell, your sense of touch, all of that and more, just the general vibe. And is there anyone that you would like to be there with you? If they're already passed, that's pretty easy. What if it's even like a celebrity crush you have? You could picture them being one of the people that comes and meets you. Heck, what about Ram Dass? That's it though. That's the course. You completed it. Great job. A+ for getting through the materials. Maybe they were materials you'd never gravitate to naturally, but you did it. You learned. If you want to hang on, here's Paul Harvey's The Rest of the Story. I knew that Mike's brother Patrick had died before my mother texted me. He'd already shown me the house that he'd set up over there for he and his lifelong partner, and dogs, lots and lots of dogs were there. I knew because I was driving Mike to Pat's place in an old Ford truck with Mike in the passenger seat, because for some reason he didn't have his driver's license in the Beyond and somehow I did. I don't know. Anyway, Patrick knew the only way Mike would cross over to the Beyond once and for all would be to tempt him with a party, like my parents always threw in their Pasco house. If they got a new dishwasher, they would have a party with their friends over. If they got a new refrigerator, same thing would happen. So we pulled to the curb and Patrick had the grill fired up in the backyard. Mike got out, hugged me goodbye, and went to Pat's side, where they immediately started arguing over how best to grill the ribs, which was so perfect. That was the two brothers. Inside the house, there were only men. Pat came in to say hello and give me a hug, and he told me, well, hell no, there aren't chicks. I'm waiting for Linda, which I loved so much. Mike is still in touch with me. He's abiding by boundaries and staying away from being inside the house. He showed me this add-on he built over part of my parents' house where he could look in on my mother and watch after her, but he's also abiding by the rules. It makes her nervous to think of him being dead, and she doesn't want to be haunted, even though she doesn't believe in anything after life ends, I guess, but whatever. We're all hypocrites, right? He said that he's frustrated, and that's where I remind him it's not your job to convince my mom. I told him that I know when my mother's time comes, Mike will greet her first and make the journey less confusing and more compassionate. So that's the rest of the story, part 2. Mike teaching me things and me teaching him things, and then him reminding me of the stuff that I taught him. The rest of the story, part 3. On Monday, February 24th, I was about to write out my to-do list over coffee, which I do every morning, when something said, your day is planned, just listen. I walked my 2 miles on the treadmill in the garage. It was really cold and snowy out. And on the window but on the outside of the glass was a ladybug. It had no business being there. That's a clear message from my friend Sissy, who was murdered when I was at the cabinet company with her. And that's another story for a different time. I knew, though, with the ladybug, something was up. I said hello to Sissy, and I wondered if her surviving daughter had finally found the podcast episode I created about her incredible mother, so that she would know that part of her mother, which I don't think anybody's told her. After the run, my cat Opal sauntered past me. His fluffy fur was completely out of control. I knew it was a long shot because the cat groomer in the neighborhood is usually booked weeks ahead of time. But I called. The woman was amazed. Yeah, we just had a cancellation. Can you get him in now? I loaded up Opal. I started my car, and there on my windshield was a fat ladybug. A different one. And mind you, it is still winter in Denver at that time. The bug remained on the glass, and when I returned to the car after dropping off Opal, it was gone. I received a text 20 or so minutes later that Opal was ready to be picked up. When I reached for the door to the groomer, yeah, there sat a ladybug. I knew Sissy wanted me to connect the dots. It was a mother-daughter thing. I'd wondered all those years where her surviving daughter ended up. I sent the daughter, I've done this countless times since Sissy passed away. I've sent the daughter my thoughts of love and protection. She would be, I think, about 37 years old now. So then I wondered, am I supposed to encounter her daughter in the cat groomers? Well, I went inside and I paid, and the cashier was a young woman of 20, and she couldn't even stand to look at me. She just looked down, averted her gaze. I left with Opal. I can charm people when I'm checking out, or they tell me, usually people open up to me and tell me their life stories, or they at least, I can get a smile out of them, okay? So it kind of hurt my feelings that she couldn't even bear to look at me. Once home, my belly started bubbling, and I knew that meant I had to go back and ask. I didn't know what I had to ask, but I had to go back. I returned to the shop. I almost didn't, but I returned to the shop, and the owner came over. Is everything okay? And I nodded. Opal was perfect. They always do a great job. I was here for another reason. I was embarrassed to say, but I had to because my stomach would continue to hurt until I delivered the message. I told her of the ladybug, my friend Sissy, who'd been a drug and alcohol addict and had cleaned up her act so that she and her daughter could have a better life. But then she was murdered. The woman turned ash white. I asked if anyone in the shop was named Megan, which is Sissy's daughter's name, or had lost a mother tragically. She said she knew who I was there to speak with, and she left for the break room. In minutes, she returned with the young woman that couldn't stand to look at me. I asked if her mother had been a user that had died tragically. She nodded. I told her about my friend Sissy, and she began to cry, and I was crying the whole time. I told her that the ladybug wasn't for me, but it was for her, that her mother was reaching out to her to say she was okay. I do not know where these words were coming from. They were just coming out. Her mother said that she had her shit together on the other side and that she needed her daughter to know two things. First, that she loved her daughter so goddamn much, and she didn't have anything to do with her mother's using and dying early. And second, that her mother was available to charm the fuck out of her life, from parking spots to job offers to whatever else she could help. The woman asked if she could hug me, and we stood there hugging and bawling for the longest time. I told her that I was sorry for cussing, and she laughed, said that's exactly how her mother spoke. I asked her if she forgets that she is lovable, and she said, all the time. She had these beautiful tattoos up her arms, and I touched her wrist and I said, "You've got to put a tattoo somewhere you see often that reminds you every time you look at it that you are wonderful. You are lovable. You deserve love." And the ladybug, I had to tell her again, it wasn't for me. It was your mother. She'll show up as ladybugs for you if you want. She told me that her mother hadn't shown up at all. She hadn't seen her at all in any way, shape, or form that she caught on to, right? And I said, let it be ladybugs then. You can make it whatever you want. But the ladybug seems to work. She hugged me again and said thank you for the messages from her mother. I didn't want to go into that shop and convey a message that I didn't even know what was going to fly out of my mouth. I almost turned my car around and went home. I didn't know how the ladybug connected us, but then all this happened. My youngest has gifts, powerful, manifesting magic without even thinking about it. My eldest has gifts. They, again, are different from my youngest and mine, but they're damn powerful. I suspect my mom has gifts that she stowed away. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a past life thing or what, but her father, Vincent, had gifts. And he faced death, for goodness sakes. Maybe it was the oppressive nature of the Catholic Church that kept my mother from expressing that part of herself and locking it down. I don't know. It's not my job to know. That's her story. 2 years ago, I had a dream where a young man who needed help crossing over reached out to me. He'd been stuck for years in limbo. At the last second, he got scared that if I crossed him over, whatever came next, he wouldn't be able to help or visit with his young wife. He left me alone in his tidy, fancy condo to wait while he thought a bit more about it. He said, "Look at my highlights," and he pointed to the walls. He left, and I walked the condo, and on the walls, like a Harry Potter movie, were video clips of him, his red Ohio State jersey, and highlights of his career with that team as their star quarterback. After what felt like a really long time, I thought he ditched me, so I left the condo. And he was standing in the catwalk outside with a gorgeous matriarch, and she was telling him, "Dwayne, stop messing around. Let's get you crossed over." She took his hand, and off they went. When I woke up, I wrote down every detail I could remember, his jersey number, the details of his face and age and all that. I decided to Google tragic death of young black quarterback to see if I was going nuts. There he was, Dwayne Haskins Jr., Heisman winner, Ohio State University, Pittsburgh Steeler, tragically killed in Florida by a truck. Like I told Mike, it's not his job to teach you. It's not my job to convince you or anyone. You are on your own journey. I have no desire to hear your logical rejection of this course material. I just wanted to share my experiences and my knowledge in case you decide to visualize a next step that has more color than the black of darkness. How about a Portillo's? No matter what, I love you as you are, not as you have been or would be, just as you. Love, Jen. P.S. The young woman at the cat grooming business told me, "I could hardly stand to look at you as you paid. You look so much like my mother." Whew, look at us, listener. We survived. over 45 minutes of death talk. I've added links to my season 1 episode that relates in the show notes. It also highlights ways to save your life every day moving forward. It used to be all the fashion during the Victorian era. How about we bring memento moris back in style? Until next week, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.